Presentations today. So now we move on to item 4, the Council Annual Report for the year ended the 30th of June 2024. I'd like to welcome staff to the table, Russell and Bede. And we got anyone online, or is it just you two chaps at the moment?
Just us present at the moment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's cool. Now, I understand, Russell, you want to go first.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, it's a great honour and a privilege to be able to sit here and present Council's annual report. Ideally, I would have had Neil Koh and Chris Walthu with me as well, Neil being the Group Financial Controller and Chris being the team leader of the Financial Accounting team, along with Mancha Das behind me, who's the financial accountant. They're the engine room of putting the annual report together so far as the financials go. Unfortunately, both Chris and Neil are unwell, so they're unable to make it, so you just got to put up with Bede, I and Mancha this morning. We also have the Chair of Audit and Risk, Bruce Robertson's behind me, and Bruce will come and speak directly. And also we have from Audit New Zealand, Chantal Grensky and Anna Jones joining us as well. And so you'd think that with all these people, that must be an important thing that we're doing, and it is. The annual report is a strategic document for Council in a number of ways. It's also a very good historical reference point for looking back and tracking and trending and seeing how a number of metrics stack up. It's also importantly, like we have to do an annual report, it's in legislation, but even if that wasn't there, we would be doing one because it's part of our contract with the public. You know, we start off doing an annual plan or an LTP. You know, we send a draft out, we seek consultation on the things that we're doing, what it's going to cost, and get feedback from that. And then we finally set the annual plan before the end of June in any particular year. And then we start work on doing it. And so we do it, and we work hard for the 12 months, and then we produce the annual report at the end of that 12 months. So that's our report card, if you like, back to the community, back to the public, saying, how do we do? You know, we took the money, we said we were going to do a number of things. This is how we did, and so that's open and transparent and available to all. So when you look at it, when you look at the highlights that we've accomplished, there's work. Well, there's quite a lot of detail. I'm not going to go through all 400 pages of it, Mr. Mayor, but the One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha, significant work happening there. Court Theatre, Matatiki at Hornby Centre. We measure the attendance at museums and art centres, libraries, where there's 95% satisfaction, customer satisfaction. You know, we ask the public, there's a public's questionnaire. We ask them how they feel on a number of issues. So libraries always rates pretty highly at 95%. That's extremely strong. Rec and sport centres, 92% customer satisfaction on that. And one that we ordinarily strike very, very high, and it's continued this year as well, as customer services. You know, 98% customer satisfaction on walk-ins, and 88% customer satisfaction by the phone. So if you think about customer services and the types of queries that they get, some will be direction, so we're pointing the way. Others will probably maybe of a concern or a negative nature. But to get that level of high public satisfaction, I think that's quite outstanding. On the finance matters, it's not all about the finances, but they are certainly important. We had, total assets for Council, 20.8 billion. And when we combine our subsidiaries, mostly with the CCHL, but we combine all our subsidiaries in what we call the parent accounts, that's $22.8 billion. Investment in assets for the past year, $715 million by Council, and we had an unbudgeted, a surplus to before tax of $44.8 million. It was a bit lower than budget because of a couple of non-budget items that we hadn't, non-cash items that we hadn't budgeted, being there was some write-offs going through and some capitalisation of staff time that hadn't quite met the measure, but still a strong financial report. And so we look at all the, the measures that we have, and section 4.43 of the report highlights that we've met 176 of, it's about 214 measures we have. So we met 176 of those, about 82%. But there was 38 that we didn't meet. So, we're, like I say, we're reporting back to the public. We'll say what we did well, what we didn't do well. There is one measure in the ST, the road smoothness measure, where the information that we gathered wasn't, we were able to gather that in a timely enough manner for audit to form a view as to whether we did or did not meet that measure. We felt that we did, but the information we had wasn't, is like I say, as timely up to date as we would like. So that matter is a matter of qualification by audit. But in every other respect, the financials or the other measures that we have, that's an unqualified opinion, and I'm happy to sit here today and present that, understanding also that I'm just at the front end of the stick. There's a vast number of people who have put a lot of effort and time into getting into the position that we're now in. So, yeah, I'm just happy to take any questions if there are any, Mr. Mayor. And then I'll ask Bruce to come and talk.
Thank you very much, Russell. Right. Are there any questions for staff on the matters that we've been presented with so far, please? Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'd now like to welcome the Chair of our Audit and Risk Committee, Bruce Robertson, who will provide an overview of the committee's recommendations, considerations. Thank you. Okay, Bruce, how you doing?
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate being here, and I'd like to just introduce myself, Bruce Robertson. I probably known to a good number of you, but it's my first time, Phil, appearing in front of you as independent chair of your Audit, Risk and Management Committee. And it is always great to meet with Council, and I appreciate the opportunity today. Look, Phil, you're quite right. I just wish to give you a short indication of the process that the committee went through to get to today. It's the responsibility of the Audit, Risk Management Committee to oversee the development of the accounts and its audit, and I just want to reflect on the committee's work. Obviously, as Russell has quite rightly said, there is a whole team with staff dealing with this, and they've been working on it for a good period of time. But the committee's first real look at this in anger was on the 4th of October, when we had a chance to workshop with the draft annual report as it stood. We had a chance to hear from Chantal Gretzky, our Audit Director, on the direction of travel of her opinion. And that was positive, and there was some good comments made by my committee members, and some minor changes were made. We met on the 17th to formally consider the report and indeed agree to the recommendations which you have in front of you on the board. And it's fair to say that at that stage, the accounts were into a near final position and ready to come, which is really superb. Can I say also that it's worthwhile noting, particularly it's obvious when you look at the financial accounts, that these are group accounts. And I would just want to record my appreciation that we were honoured by the CCHL board and also their senior management coming to our risk committee on the 17th to talk through their audit and the results of their audit, because ultimately their reporting appears in this annual report. And that's the group accounts columns that you see, particularly in the financials, and quite a significant number of disclosures in terms of the notes. But I would like to record the fact that we were able to receive a good response and a relatively clean report from CCHL, which was encouraging. As far as the annual report goes, I think you've said 400 pages, Russell. I think I was about to make a joke that even the committee probably finds that a lot of information, although we've gone through it. I would like to reflect a comment I made to my committee that actually, as councillors, this is actually a really important report. It's important that we use it in our accountability to the community. And if you only had time after this meeting to consider it, look at pages 1 to 25 of the annual report. it picks up on exactly the point that you were making, Russell, that this reflects strongly on the achievements of what council, what you delivered to the community. Because service received is actually what naturally any council is here for. So pages 1 to 25 are really important for you, if you wish to grip up on how you can be effectively accountable to your community. It will also form the basis of the summary annual report, which may be the most accessible part of our annual reporting cycle. I'd also like to draw reference to page 213 of your annual report. It's also, if you're following your agenda, it's on page 226. This is a very good piece of work by your staff to provide a sense of where to from here. And this reflects, to me, Phil, the really important part of the annual report. Yes, it's an historical record, but it's a snapshot of what we have delivered, where we are, and it's focusing on where we go in the future. Just technically, that's great accountability, but actually also, again, as a committee, as you focus on clearly an annual report, as you focus on some of the broader government reform challenges, it's important that you have signalled this to your community, so I commend you for it. On page 244, that's the agenda, you've got all the financial position. Like Russell, I don't intend to go into that other than if I could leave you with the independent chair's reflection, your position is sound. And I hope that gives you some comfort. I do want to comment quickly on the audit process. It's been smooth and we've had a good engagement. And look, my first audit process, but I would just like to thank Chantal and her team for good engagement and clarity on their direction of travel. Russell's mentioned the fact that we do have a qualification over the performance given, and this is the road smoothness, and I stress that service received is actually what our accountability is, and it's important that we get it right. Having said that, while the opinion disclaims the road smoothness measure, I would like us to keep that in perspective. It's an important measure, but it's one of many. And I would be disappointed if we viewed this annual report through that one measure and its results, because overall the annual report does present a very strong performance by the council over the last year, and with time on our hands, which comes after we've got the opinion, it would be well worth further scrutiny as to how it affects the position going forward. Importantly, we have an external party, the Auditor General's opinion, on good performance reported by you as a council, which is superb. I'd like to just leave it that actually the recommendations are quite detailed. It recommends that you adopt the annual report. It recommends that you enable Phil and Mary to sign the letter of representation and ultimately receive the audit report, and that comes with the endorsement of the Audit and Risk Management Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Bruce. Good news indeed. Are there any questions for Bruce regarding the committee's considerations? Well done.
Great. Doing well.
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Yanni's got one.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for your report, Bruce. I'm just looking at page 352 of the agenda and page 1115 of the annual report, and that's around the cost of the severance payments. And I note that there was quite a significant severance payment of $231,000 that was given. And I just wondered if given the variation to the previous year and the significant quantum of one payment, whether the Audit and Risk Committee has looked at that issue and seen whether there's any way in which we can learn from it and look at improving going forward. It just raised a really big issue of concern to me at a governance level, and I'd just like to sort of understand if Audit and Risk were looking at that to see what had happened and how we can improve. Thank you.
Thanks, Jani. It is clearly a key disclosure matter, and it's sensitive. It's sensitive in two ways. Firstly, that actually severance payments have been needed. It's also sensitive on the basis that generally payments of this nature come with a level of confidentiality. So the critical question that firstly the committee needed to ask itself was, were the disclosures made in that note appropriate to the conditions and terms of agreements reached in with former employees, and they are. So we needed to make certain that we were aware of that. As regards, should council take any lesson from needing to make any of those individual severance payments, my answer is yes, but that's an easy yes. I think the critical thing in the first instance is actually for other parts of the organisation to take stock, if not council itself. But I think at this stage there's nothing that I could draw or that the committee has focused on from a perspective of lessons learned at this point.
Right. Is there a process underway by which we would get briefed on things? I mean, one thing that stands out is, do we need to look at the employment contracts that we're giving in terms of allowing for such a huge settlement?
Look, I would probably like to perhaps suggest this may be a question that Mary could pick up with you later. I'd like to reflect that a severance payment isn't necessarily under the terms of employment contract. Okay, they are there for a particular purpose, but I think at this point it would be valuable to reflect that these are primarily matters for your chief executive and her role as the employer of staff, and I would reflect that I think this is more appropriate ultimately, probably outside this meeting, for Mary to make comment on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Beautiful. Sarah, please.
Thanks. That was one of my two questions too. So if we could get a briefing at some point on those HR practices, that would be really good, because while it was lower last year, the 2 years previous to that were both over 200,000 as well. So there's something clearly not working right within that. But the other one was actually just on the gender pay gap, which is on page 41 of the agenda. So it's great to see that this is reported. It's requested, which is really good. It's clearly still too high, and much higher than the national average, and higher than CCHL. But there's a comment in there that we measure it by calculating the median of total fixed remuneration, excluding allowances and overtime. I thought that the best practice was to include those, because some positions within an organisation are open to having additional allowances and overtime and things, and some aren't, and it tends to be ones, at least at CCHL, where men are, that are available to get the extra money. So it would be good to include those as part of the assessment next time.
Thanks very much, through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks very much for the feedback, Councillor. We'll have a look at that. We're trying to be consistent with how it's done across the sector, but we'll certainly have a look at how we capture.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, I'd now like to welcome Chantel and Anna from Audit New Zealand to provide an update on the audit process and an opinion. Good to see you again.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to say that we have completed our audit on the 30th of June 2024 annual report, and as soon as we received a signed letter of representation, we intend on issuing our audit report. We intend on issuing an unmodified audit report on the financial statements, funding impact statements, statement of capital expenditure for each group activity, including the financial position and results of the operations of council and cash flows for the year, and that we say that these fairly present in all material respects. For the statement of performance, as Russell has indicated, except for the possible effects of the average quality of ride on the sealed local road network measured by smooth travel exposure, we intend on issuing a qualification on that point, but that the other measures that we have audited fairly reflect the performance of council. We'd also like to thank the staff of council. It has been a great working relationship. I think we've really had an open engagement this year in terms of working through everything. It is a mammoth task getting through your 400 pages of annual report. And so thank you very much for all of the contributions.
Okay, thank you, Chantal. Are there any questions for Audit New Zealand? Well done.
Big thumbs up.
Good on you. Before considering the recommendations, are there any further questions for staff or anyone? Okay, I'm more than happy to move it, and Sam's happy to second it. But I must say, I'd like to thank staff and the audit team for the phenomenal amount of work that goes into this, and over the last 6 months. So you'll be pleased to get some of your life back. So great result, considering some of the headwinds that we have had going through the year. So thank you very much for all concerned.
Thank you.
So we've got a mover and seconder. Is there any debate?
Yeah, could I make a quick comment, please?
Certainly,
Mr.
Pauline.
Mayor?
Certainly.
And my comment is just to, yes, reiterate your words as well, but particularly thank Russell for a fantastic introduction. He stole my complete debate that I had prepared in advance, which is great because I don't have to say it because I'm still coughing a wee bit. And also for Bruce's comments who backed up what Russell said. So I think we should all be very, very proud of this report. I am. And I love the way that you stated it's a picture of what we've achieved together with our communities. We've done this through their engagement with us, through our LTPs and our annual plans, telling us what they want and what they expect, and also with their huge help in the volunteer sector. So I think we need to recognise that we're doing this together, and Christchurch is certainly shaping up well. Phil, as you've put in your introduction in the report, I think we should all be very proud. I am. So thank you. I'm happy to support today. Thank you, Pauline. Anyone else? Okay. So I'll put that. No debate. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. All those against? Thank you very, very much. That's carried. Well done, everyone. Well done. Thank you.
You want to wander up there and swap?
Oh, yes.
Walk of honour.